Hello everyone and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you my 4 best bets for tomorrow's racing. Now before we get stuck into that, I just want to quickly go through how our picks have performed today. In the end, it has been another frustrating day, as none of our selections had anything of note to write home about. Our first selection was our next best, fortunate Fred at Sedgefield. In the end, the money did come for him, and young Lieutenant, who I thought would drift out in the market, he did drift out, but in the end, he was definitely the better. And he looked like the more progressive horse on the day, and it looks like Warren Greatorex has really sorted him out well. He had some fair form, you could argue, as a novice. However, I always thought he was a little bit of a rascal. I remember, especially as well, a few times last season, he was very well fancied in quite a few novice hurdles, and then found nothing really, and was very disappointing. But they rode him a little bit differently today, and they were happy to take a lead from Fortunate Fred. He ran all right, and the pair were miles clear of anything else. But yeah, just disappointing though that we couldn't get off to a good start. And then our extra tip, Commodore Barry, he jumped very well for a long way, and then with about 3 fences to go, he went out like a light. Probably needed the run. However, that I am a little bit disappointed with that, because he had shown some really good ability fresh in the past, so maybe he did need the run, and maybe it's a warning that Kim Bailey, for this time of year, his horses are probably going to need their run. And normally I always think of him as a trainer that is normally able to get them ready and raring to go from the early part of the season. So yeah, if you're looking to follow Kim Bailey's yard, maybe have a second look at the horse before you back it. Do they normally go well fresh, or do they normally need the run? Probably be the ones that normally need the run will be the ones doing best and will be winning first time out. So yeah, but that is something I think you should take note of. Kim Bailey, always have a second look at his horses at the moment, because they haven't been in particularly great form. However, that's not normally a stat, like I said, that normally worries me, because like I said, I think he's a trainer that can do it first time. But yeah, Commodore Barry, less said about him the better, and he faded away quite tamely in the end. And the other selection, Sanseviro, now he was the long shot on the day for James Tate, and to be fair, I think he ran a good race for a lot of the way, but in the end, I think probably the wide draw just cost him, and also as well, being up there, the pace, it set up for the closers in the end. There was actually a lot of pace, as it turned out, in the race in the end, and he did drift out like a barge. I put him up at 10-1 each way last night. I think he was as big at one point as 22-1. So yeah, the market knew, but obviously I didn't. But yeah, Sanseviro was very disappointing. However, at the time of recording, I'm just making this video after 6:30. We do have our Nap Anna of Lorraine to run in the 7:10 at Wolverhampton. Has been well backed. We advertised it at 11-4 last night. I've seen it go short at one point today, 6-4. So the money has been down for it, and I just hope the drop back and trip will unlock the key to her, and she can finally get her first win on the board. But on the whole, yeah, like I said, it has been disappointing today. But in September, we've been riding high for the majority of it. We've obviously had a great spell with the winning naps, and we had a lot of good winners earlier in the month. However, in the last week or so, if you've been backing me, we've been a little bit up and down. It seems like we've had one good day, and we've had a bad day, one good day and a bad day. It's kind of been a bit up and down, so we're not really showing that much profit towards the end of this month. However, we will end in a profit in September, and I'll post stats on my Twitter feed for the final results a bit later in the week. But if you want to know how we've been getting on in September, and since I started recording statistics since June the 1st, just look in the description box below. I always keep a running tally, so that's how we've performed so far. But fingers crossed we can end the month on a high. And for our first tip tomorrow, we go for the jumps card at Huntingdon. Good to see them back. A track I always like watching the racing at. Not been there personally, but one for the bucket list. We go to the 2:35 there at Huntingdon with a horse called Silent Encore for Ben Case and Keelan Wood. So you can currently back this horse at 4-1. Now this race on paper looks a very weak contest. There's not many horses in here that have standout claims. However, looking more into Silent Encore, I just think he might be up to winning a race of this nature. Now in his career, he has shown some ability at times. And off a mark of 88, I think he actually fairly well treated in this field, and his recent run at Uttoxeter, I think, was definitely one he can build on. The form's not worked out too badly. The Ben Pauling horse that finished second in that race at Uttoxeter has subsequently gone on to win since, so it doesn't necessarily look like a bad piece of form. He's got some fair form at the course before, placing a few times over the distance, and there's a few in here tomorrow that will have stamina concerns, and also as well bless you, sorry there about the sneeze. But yeah, going back to Silent Encore and the setup of the race, there's actually a lot of horses in this particular race tomorrow that that they've never really shown an attitude for stamina. And also as well, another key thing about them tomorrow is their ability to go on soft ground. Now, Silent Encore has done quite well on soft ground in the past. If you go back through some of his earlier form, some of his efforts where he's made the frame has been on soft ground, some of them as well at Huntingdon, so it's a track that he often runs quite well out, even though he is still 0 from 22. But this is how bad the race is. A lot of the horses that have gone on soft or heavy going in the past have shown that they're very ineffective on it, and there's going to be plenty of rain around tomorrow throughout the day, and if the rain does get in the ground, this could be a real battle home, a real slog. And I just think Silent Encore getting quite a bit of weight from some of the rivals tomorrow. I think he's got a good chance in this race, and at 4-1, I think he represents a little bit of value there. And I wouldn't be at all surprised, actually, if some of the other horses, especially as well the Kim Bailey runner, which we just touched upon, maybe drifted out in the betting. So for me, Silent Encore is going to be my next best, and I hope he can get us off to a good start there. We then go to the 4:30 at Bangor-On-Dee with a horse called Morning Spirit for John Joe O'Neill Jr., riding for his dad, John Joe O'Neill. Now, this horse, Morning Spirit, is quite an interesting contender in this race tomorrow. He's going to be my extra tip, and you can currently back him at 7-1. I'm going to recommend an each-way bet here. Now, he's going to be making his seasonal reappearance tomorrow off a mark of 118. Now, if we look at some of his form from last season, it's actually quite strong, and he met some nice novices along the way. His standout piece of form definitely has to be his second place to Highway 102 of Chris Gordon's, who went on to win a Grade 2 race at Kempton when they had the Dovecot meeting there. I was actually there that day, and I've actually spent a little bit of time with Chris Gordon over the last couple of years, visited his yard a few times. I last visited him back in February it was, and I remember talking to him about this horse and the plans, and they were very sweet on him to definitely land a nice pot, and he's pretty much was saying that this is the best horse he's ever had, and he is the best horse he's ever had, really, because he's the only graded winner Chris Gordon's ever had. But they just liked his attitude, and despite being he looks like a bit of a tearaway sometimes, the fact that he likes to be quite keen, he likes to go forward, that's just him. But he's undoubtedly seriously talented, that Highway 102, and I'm looking forward to seeing him this season. But going back to Morning Spirit, he showed a fair level of ability that day to finish second to Highway 102, and in this field tomorrow, making his seasonal reappearance off a mark of 118, I think he's fairly well treated. Now, he did go to Exeter on his final start of the season, which was actually meant to be his handicap debut, and he was quite well beaten that day. I think you can forgive him that effort. Maybe he had a little bit of a hard season, and also as well, there should be some rain around at Bangor tomorrow, and he, unlike some of his rivals tomorrow, can handle a little bit of juice in the ground. So for me, Morning Spirit at 7-1, I think he definitely might have a bit of flexibility off this mark of 118, and I expect a good race from him tomorrow. John Joe O'Neill's team have been in good form as well. They had a winner today, had a few winners of late as well up at Perth last week. So for me, I think at 7-1, this is a fair each way bet tomorrow, and I definitely think Morning Spirit will be going on to bigger and better things. We then go to my nap, which runs in the 7 o'clock at Kempton with a horse called Ifraaz for Mark Johnson and PJ McDonald. You can currently back this horse at 7-2, and I'm hoping he can get us a final winning nap in September. Now, this horse, if you actually look through some of his form, he actually started the season a little bit frustratingly. However, in the last couple of starts, it's been a lot more like it. He actually won at the course here when winning quite nicely a couple of starts ago. That was his first ever start on the all-weather. And then he backed it up with arguably an even more impressive performance by trying to make all at Newcastle. And you don't want to normally make all, especially as well over the longer trips in Newcastle. I don't mind it necessarily over the sprinter trips, but if you've been running a mile and a half, 2 miles, you don't normally want to go to the front. It's often a long way home and that's the tactics he tried to deploy, but he did stick it at really fair. The game need to be fair to him, and the horse that won that race was a horse of John Gosden's called Indigo Lake, who's actually the ITV the foal that they covered from birth. But Indigo Lake, he's been really progressive this season. He's been running in some really good handicaps, and a lot of his form does stack up with some of the best 3-year-old stayers. And Ifraaz coming back to Kempton, to the scene of his last win tomorrow, I think this is definitely a positive move. And going down a trip to this trip as well, it wouldn't be an issue. He's just dropping a furlong or so for that run at Newcastle, and I just think if he can get to the front, get an easy lead, he might just have too much stamina at the trip for quite a fefew of these, and I think he's definitely going to take another step forward. I could see him being a horse that you might want to follow throughout the winter. So that's going to be Ifraaz tomorrow, 7:02 at Kempton in the 7 o'clock, and he's going to be my nap. We then go to the Longshot in the 7:30 at Kempton with a horse called Greek Oasis for Jack Mitchell and Chris Wall. Now, Chris Wall, over the last few weeks, he's been having a few winners here and there, and this horse has been running quite credibly of late. She's by Oasis Dream out of a Galilean mare. Now, she obviously definitely takes more after a dam who's got plenty of stamina on her side of the pedigree. Oasis Dream, if you know your bloodlines, he was a top class sprinter for John Gosden nearly 10 years ago now. But if you look at the way this horse developed, she definitely looks more like a stayer. And last time was the first time she'd ever tackled 10 furlongs, and she definitely improved for stepping up in trip. And the fact that she's by Galileo mare as well, and she's got Galileo in her pedigree, you think she's going to improve over time and get better with age. And the more racing she's had, the more step forward she's taken. And off a mark of 58, I think she's definitely got a bit more to come off that mark. Now, if she replicates that run at Chelmsford last time, I think she could be a major player in this race tomorrow. And the track at Kempton is said to be riding slightly on the slow side, so being handy tomorrow could be definitely an advantage at Kempton. And if this horse can get into a good early position, you can currently get 12-1 about this horse. I think this is a big price for it, and I think it will actually contract a little bit throughout the day tomorrow, and you get 4 places as well with Bet Victor offering 12-1. So I think it's a good each way bet there, and I'd be disappointed if this horse wasn't there or thereabouts and couldn't take another step forward. So that's going to be Greek Oasis, currently 12-1, and that's going to be my long shot rounding things off. So I'll quickly just recap the horses there. In the 225 at Huntingdon, we go to Silent Encore. That's the next best win only bet. In the 4:30 at Bangor-On-Dee, we go with Morning Spirit, 7-1 each way. That's the extra tip. The 7 o'clock at Kempton is Ifraaz, a 7-2 win only bet. And 7:30 at Kempton, we go with Greek Oasis for Jack Mitchell and Chris Wall. Gonna be my long shot. That's 12-1 with 4 places currently on offer with Betfair. So they're the 4 tips for tomorrow's racing. Hopefully we can end September on a high. If you like the videos, please make sure you subscribe here to my YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up, and also as well, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so, where my handle is at LuckyLoader15. And if you want to find out a little bit more about myself, check out my website, which is www.chrisloaderracing.co.uk. So please gamble responsibly. Hopefully we can have some winners tomorrow, and we'll be seeing you soon.